And just like that, it is almost over. Your Denver Broncos wrap up the second to last training camp practice with some great news about a couple of rookies. Also prove to the world that they have one of the rarest things in professional sports. That and way more in this video. We hear great news about Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonitto, so much more. We're breaking it all down here. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and it helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So we're seeing more and more from the Kay Adams interview yesterday on set. She interviewed Pat Surtain and Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton together. And what is clear about this team is it has one of the rarest things when you get a bunch of multimillionaires who have been the big man on campus every single place that they have gone. A lot of times team chemistry is extremely hard or non-existent. Like Russell Wilson was famous to roll in and roll out, and he didn't hang out with people. We've heard of other professional athletes who during training camp didn't want to stay in the team hotel, didn't want to be together. You can tell that this is a young and hungry group of people who love being together. So much so, Bo Nix was asked about the passing camp that he held and where it happened, and he dodged the question about as hard as you could. And Kay Adams was like, why are you dodging this question? He's like, because I don't want you to find out where it is, because I don't want any media there next year, because the best part of it is us hanging out and becoming friends and building that bond. And we don't want a bunch of media or Sports Talk Denver rolling up and just taking pictures on their iPhone. You're seeing that. Then we're seeing that our guy, Nick Bonitto, not only made like the NFL top 100, he came in at number 38, which is amazing to have a guy that we picked at the 64th pick that shocked George Payton when he was there and fell to there.
Nick
He's
Bonitto
like,
at 64. Holy.
We got Nick Bonitto at 64, and now he's the 38th best player in the entire NFL. It's a wild, wild riches right there. And what you're seeing is so many Broncos like are celebrating that even harder than Nick Bonitto is. You're seeing as soon as that was announced by the NFL, you're seeing like Jonathan Cooper take to his social media and be like, that's my dog right there. Congrats. Seeing Marvin Mims do it. The list goes on, and a bunch of others yesterday during that Kay Adams interview went over the top to gush about him and like, yeah, he's 38 now. Wait till you see next year. Ask Kyle Shanahan what it's like to game plan for Nick Bonitto as he single-handedly was in the backfield 3 plays in a row. Like the future is bright. We're seeing just like Jarrett Stidham was asked about his relationship with Bo Nix, and he wasn't just like, hey, we're kind of friends. We hang out in the locker room. He said he's one of my closest friends. Like one of, they've only known each other for 2 years, and yet they have that military type bond of brotherhood right there. And you see that they've gone to battle together. And so that's one of the rarest things in sports, to have a team that loves each other. And we know we've talked about on here before that culture eats strategy and talent for breakfast. And so we might not have a bunch of 99s on Madden, but if they love and play for each other, that's how you make a very, very deep playoff push. But I do think they're like closer to a 99 on Madden than they probably should be. If you take a look here at our outside edge rushers, like not only do we have one of the fastest get-offs in the league here with Nick Bonitto, like it takes him under a second from when that ball is snapped for him to like get off, which is absolutely wild. Then coming in right behind him is Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper has been absolutely destroying the Denver Broncos in these training camp practices. We're seeing his name is the one that I see beat reporters tweeting about more times than anyone else, just that he's had a phenomenal camp. And again, what a great pickup, a guy that dropped in the draft because he had cardiac issues that are completely resolved, and that is going to be a deal that just ages like a craft single on your counter. It will never go bad, and it's going to get better each and every day. So I love that he's in Denver and that George Payton was able to scout that talent and evaluate, like, is this a long-term risk or do we bring him in? And so that's absolutely phenomenal. And Vance Joseph being like, yeah, I don't know why we're just starting to talk about Jonathan Cooper, because he's been this dog since I got here, and I guess people are finally starting to notice. But this is why I think the Broncos have the best outside edge rush room in the entire game right now, because Nick Bonitto's phenomenal, and Jonathan Cooper had 10.5 sacks last year, and we're just starting to scratch the surface on what that duo can be. Absolutely phenomenal news there. Now, there have been a lot of folks who have been complaining about how the Broncos offense has performed and saying stuff. I listen to Broncos media all the time. They're like, we just need to see 2 good days in a row from camp from Bo Nix. And what we are seeing more and more is that this is the norm in NFL training camps. Defenses have the advantage without a doubt, and there's a sense of physicality. Also, these plays are scripted. You know exactly the down and distance and situations that you're going to practice that day. You know the plays. And so knowing the playbook ahead of time gives them a massive advantage. And I think this proves the point perfectly that you see Bengals Twitter losing their mind because today this is the supposedly the best offense in football, right? Where you have two mega stars that, you're paying T. Higgins more than we're paying our wide receiver one. So they have two top paid wide receivers. They have MVP candidate Joe Burrow, and they have the worst defense in football, and no one debates that. And that's the worst defense in football without the only guy who could actually pressure the quarterback, because Trey Hendrickson is still holding out. And you're seeing that they're coming out and saying, hey, the Bengals dominated, the defense dominated that number one offense. And you don't see them panicking whatsoever. Like, of course, the defense has the advantage when they know the playbook. Like, there's just no question about that. And that's kind of what Joe Lombardi said in his post-practice press conference today, that like, they asked like, hey, how does Bo Nix look? And he was almost dismissive, and he's like, good, great. Why are you guys asking this? And they asked him specifically about the game against the San Francisco 49ers, and this is how he responded.
Fine, good. I think, Cortland comes down with that one pass 9 times out of 10. We just missed a little bit on a ball to the flat there. That would have been a big play. But
so basically everyone is losing their mind over 11 snaps when we saw an entire season of what Bo Nix could do without a running game and without a tight end. So everybody just pump the brakes on that. And that's kind of Joe Lombardi's entire vibe of that, is like, what are we even talking about here? Like, Courtland Sutton makes that catch on the sidelines 9 out of 10 times, and then Bo Nix's numbers skyrocket. And so do not start looking at that preseason game and saying, oh, Bo Nix is going to have a sophomore slump, because nobody thinks that. And his performance in training camp, Sean Payton, the other thing that he does that drives me bonkers, and a lot of folks said yesterday in the comments, was he ended yesterday's move the ball period with an interception to Jaquan McMillian. And if you read all of the reports of it, he was throwing a jump ball to Michael Bandy, who's like our 5'10" slot receiver, who's probably going to be on the practice squad. And his starting left tackle yesterday was Frank Crum. And so that wasn't the starting offense. And he, in a real situation, that's probably a jump ball to Courtland Sutton or Marvin Mims, or a guy we know is going to come down with that. So don't panic. Joe Lombardi's absolutely not panicking. And then the other thing that he kind of subliminally said was like, the 49ers had no business in the first preseason game of the year playing the type of defense that they did. That no defense every defense goes out and is completely vanilla. And we saw like the safety that Bo Nix had was against a corner blitz, which should not happen in the preseason. I was listening to a national podcast today on The Ringer, and that was their takeaway as well. Like, we couldn't believe the type of defense. Like, what are the 49ers doing sending blitzes in a preseason game? And so pump the brakes. The Broncos aren't worried, so we absolutely should not be worried as well. Again, it's the plethora of work that we actually saw last year when the snaps counted, and just seeing more advanced analytics that Bo Nix was one of the best in the year last year at when there was pressure on him, making sure that didn't turn into a sack, that there were only 3 quarterbacks last season who were better when they were under pressure at avoiding a sack than your rookie quarterback. So how much better is he going to be this next season, knowing that the biggest improvement we saw in Bo Nix just in that preseason game was the fact that he was at the line and making calls and calling out mics and audibling and killing run plays. He's going to have such a huge command of this offense, and he already was phenomenal at avoiding the sack last season. We are just starting to see the start of what that's going to be. Other big good news that we got out of practice here is that Alex Singleton, Dre Greenlaw, both back. I love to see that. Nick Bonitto was observing from the sideline today, but Sean Payton expects him to be ready for practice this week, so don't know if he'll be participating in joint practices tomorrow with the Cardinals or if we'll see him on Saturday, but Sean Payton doesn't seem concerned. And when it comes to Sean Payton telling us, hey, we expect this player back at this time, it comes true like 99% of the time. He told us Singleton and Greenlaw were going to be back this week, and just like that, they are. So we can trust him when he says the same thing about, obviously, about Nick Bonitto. So last thing, we are seeing some great reports on some of our rookies and I think we went into the season just saying like, hey, if just our free agents hit, we're going to be a deep playoff team. We weren't even counting on, could Jahdae Barron actually be good? And could Pat Bryant actually be good? And could RJ Harvey actually be good? And we are hearing glowing reports about all 3 of those guys. Mostly today, hearing great things about how Pat Bryant is looking in this offense. And that is a skill set we truly do not have here. Just seeing the type of speed and route running that he has, he is so fluid as an athlete. He was the player that when we were at training camp, my son and I couldn't take our eyes off of because he could go from a full-on sprint to being stopped, and like the way that he drops his hips, we don't have a receiver who can run like this. So he does not have breakaway speed like Marvin Mims, but his route running is incredible. And you're seeing all the reporters who are at camp saying that his connection with Bo and with Jarrett Stidham is something to behold. And hearing Sean Payton this week in his press conference yesterday saying like the goal of these next couple preseason games is let's feed him the rock these next couple games. And then other thing that we're hearing is that Jahdae Barron is an actual dog. Kay Adams asked Pat Bryant, like, who should I really keep an eye out on? And he said, keep an eye on Jahdae Barron, because Sean Payton has said that he's going to be the joker of the defense, that he can line up as, like, he can play a linebacker position, he can play a safety position, he can play inside and outside. He is constantly around the ball, and what we saw in the preseason game was that he allowed 0 yards after the catch, that his receiver that he was guarding would make the catch, and there was 0 space. He sucked up all of the oxygen on the field, which is just a phenomenal thing. So much to be excited about. Joint practice tomorrow, Cardinals in the house. Preseason game on Saturday. Y'all, we got a ton to Bo-LIEVE in. Oh,